Kairlı kun.
Good morning, distinguished participants of the conference and guests. Today we are on the second day of our conference. This is the continuation of our Day of Spiritual Concord, and we are happy to be with you here today. Dear participants, I'd like to give the first floor to the author of the idea of the Day of Spiritual Concord, the initiator of this day and events as well. So I would like to give the floor to Mr. Tuligen Muhamedjanov. Distinguished guests, first of all, I'd like to congratulate you all with the Day of Spiritual Concord. And 30 years ago, for the first time at the conference, there were expressed wishes and a lot of thoughts, and we till this day continue to celebrate this holiday, and I'm very grateful for your personal participation in this conference. And since yesterday, we've been speaking a lot about a spiritual concord. We've heard a lot of thoughts and opinions, and we hope that your ideas will come into life in the future. Once again, I congratulate you all with the Day of Spiritual Concord. 30 years ago, for the first time in the human history in Almaty, in the Palace of the Republic, the first Global Congress of Spiritual Concord took place in a great hall which was full of people. 3,000 people participated at the Congress at the time, so it was a very grandeur forum. I still remember that day. I remember how people gathered at the hall. I remember who participated at the Congress from the different parts of the world, and the idea itself of the spiritual concord and the participation of the representatives of different religions and confessions at that time was kind of a sensation, because this was unprecedented event, and the relation towards it was quite interesting, and we had a lot of also prominent participants, and one of the participants thought of himself as prophet, so he declared himself as a prophet. He came. He was a young Russian, and I remember, thought of himself a Jesus Christ, and also we had an Italian Giovanni, and on his body there were some spots that were the spots of the nails, and they were bleeding, and he was a participant of our Congress as well. So there were lots of interesting situations, I'd say, and the world was quite surprised with this idea, and 30 years have already passed, and this is a history now. And the Dalai Lama 14th also expressed wish to participate in a congress, so we were waiting for him. And 1 week before the congress, we've received a letter from the Chinese People's Republic, which stated that his personal visit would be interference with the domestic affairs of People's Republic of China, and that is why this will entail certain measures against our country. So when we received such a letter, I remember that I was invited to the government, and I, as the main organizer of the event, I remember how challenging that was. And many people wanted to come to see Dalai Lama 14th in person in Kazakhstan, and I remember that there were such challenging and difficult moments as well, because International Organizational Committee at that time was a very so to say, angry with me, with the situation. However, we were able to resolve this issue, and he wrote that due to being sick at the time, he wouldn't be able to participate in the Congress. So I never told about these stories before, but today this is a jubilee of our Day of Spiritual Concord, and that's why I'm sharing these stories, because not everything went smooth from the very beginning. There were certain difficulties, and however, we had a blessing of God, and a congress took place. There were also lots of funding issues, financial issues, and I alone was solving these financial issues because International Organizational Committee they didn't want to be involved in funding. However, with the support from the God, we were able to solve all the issues. And yesterday I also said that we rented the hall in the Palace of the Republic for a week. We did an opening and hosted roundtables there, and also we organized a concert which took place at the final day of our events. That was a very beautiful concert, a very grandeur concert, and one of the roundtables took place in Parliament, where the meetings of our MPs took place at the time, and in the best halls of Almaty we hosted our events back then. And to be honest, the Congress was very memorable, a truly international event. And at the time we have just received our independence. We haven't yet reached first year of our independence, and that is why I believe that some forces from above they helped us with this endeavor, and I hope it continues that way. Thank you. Mr. Mohamed Janov, on behalf of all of us, I thank you for your contribution, and I thank you for your participation in the second day of our celebrations. And yesterday during the concert we had discussions with you, and I remember that you also spoke about the history of the Congress. And distinguished participants, once again, let's thank Mr. Tuligin Muhammadjanov to hold to host such events over the 30 years period wasn't always easy, and Mr. Muhammadjanov have always put all his efforts to organize these events at the highest possible level. And as we understood, the main message of Mr. Muhammadjanov is to also continue this tradition in the future. So once again, we express our gratitude to Mr. Muhammadjanov, and I'd like to give the next floor to the head of the Department for Interfaith and Intercivilizational Dialogue, Mr. Sarsimbaev. Thank you very much. Today we are gathering here for the second day, and this is a unique building, the Palace of Peace and Concord, and our people call this building the pyramid, and this is truly a unique building. It can be seen from many parts of our city, and this building, the idea behind it was to make it a headquarter of the Congress of the Leaders of World and Traditional Religions, which took place for the first time in 2003, and 17 delegations participated in that Congress at the time, and a decision was made that the Congress should have its own building. So the second Congress in 2006 will also took place in this building, and the third and the fourth and the fifth and so on, all the congresses took place in this building. However, the seventh Congress that was in September partially was hosted in this building, and the Congress itself took place in the Palace of Independence across the road, because the number of people who participated was more than 100, and we needed more spacious hall, and we needed to make a place for more than 80 people. So a month before the Congress, we decided to relocate the main meeting place. However, some of the sessions took place in this building, so this is all happened due to a great number of people who came and participated at the 7th Congress. More than 100 delegations visited Astana in September, and we see that the platform that we established in Astana, it is respected, it is demanded, and more attracts participants from all over the world. This time we had a lot of novelties during the Congress. For example, participation of the Pope Francis himself. Pontific for the first time participated in the work of the Congress. Previously, about 20 years ago, the late Pope Johann Pavel also visited Kazakhstan. However, it was just an official visit of the Pope to Kazakhstan, But this time, this was an official state visit of the Pope Francis, and he came here as the head of Vatican and as the participant of the Congress of Leaders of World and Traditional Religions. He participated at the opening and closing of the Congress, so he was a full participant of this Congress. A lot of leaders of churches, different Muslim organizations, Christian, Buddhism's representatives, all of them came here to participate in the Congress. Also, representatives of Jainism, the Indian religion, also participated in the Congress. It has about 5-6 million followers. It's an ancient religion, and this time they also expressed the wish to participate in the Congress. For the first time, we had a lot of foreign correspondents. About 250 foreign correspondents came to Kazakhstan, including representatives of the leading media of the world, CNN, Euronews, BBC, and others. So they were providing reports to their through their medium. Until the 17th of September, Kazakhstan and the events that took place in Kazakhstan, about them we saw articles in all media of the world, and it is symbolic that following the Congress we are having this round table today, and yesterday we had a conference and Day of Spiritual Concord and the Congress. These are events that go hand in hand, and it unites all representatives of religions. It's more just one religion, it's more than some political issues. I think during this conference and roundtable, we try to cover our fundamental values and try to solve challenges of today's world and protect what we have. And Kazakhstan at the time made this initiative, and all of this is thanks to those people who were at the origins of these initiatives. And I think tolerance, understanding of other cultures is in the hearts of people of Kazakhstan, because we've always been in the crossroads, and from the territory of today's Kazakhstan, one of the first religions, Zoroastrianism, proliferated, and we also remember that at this territory people believed in Tengri, in eternal sky, and at the time many travelers spoke about the tribes living in this territory who followed Christianism, Islam, and Buddhism. When I worked as an ambassador in India, I wrote an article about Kanishka. Kanishka was an emperor at the first century, and thanks to him, Buddhism that originated in the territory of today's India and Nepal proliferated and became a global religion. So the empire of Kanishka at the time included some territories of Almaty region and South Kazakhstan region, and he contributed to the proliferation of Buddhism, and he was the first who created the sculpture of Buddha. Before that, the Buddha was perceived as, for example, a tree or a stone, but he was the first who built the statue of Buddha. And that is why I say that we were at the crossroads of trade routes, and not only trade routes but also religious routes. And we are the descendants of people who lived in these territories, and I'd say we genetically inherited this tolerance and understanding of other religions. And today, at the territory of Kazakhstan, more than 100 ethnic groups live in peace and unity. We have 18 confessions represented in Kazakhstan, and I'm happy that we are all together here sitting at one table and talking about our fundamental values and tasks that we have ahead of us. And I believe that the fundamental values, they are present in any religion, and religions, they do not spread violence or some unacceptable things for mankind. And when we have a meeting of the working group of the secretariat, for example, we also discuss a lot of issues. And during these discussions, representatives of different religions, they express their opinions, actively participate in these discussions. Sometimes they are quite long, these discussions, but at the end we draft a document. We try to find common ground and enshrine it in a document. So I believe this is what unites us all. Once again, I'd like to say thanks to the organizers of this event for giving us such an opportunity to speak here, to meet with all of you. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk more about the Congress that took place in September. This was an event that we were waiting and that we were arranging for a year, and we are satisfied with the level of the event, and we are happy that we were able to conduct it at the highest possible level. So now our task is to spread the declaration, to communicate it to all stakeholders, and President instructed us to develop a concept, and we've already started work on this concept, the concept of the Congress of the World and of the leaders of world and traditional religions for 10, 15 years. And the president instructed us to more systemically cover these issues and put forward tasks for the next 10, 15 years. Thank you for your attention.
Благодарим за ваше.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bulat. And actually, Congress of the Global Religions plays its role, especially when we, during a year, we couldn't meet with Mr. Bulat all the year because he was very busy sending invitation letters to all people whom he planned to see in that Congress. And you just covered a very wide circle of people. And we noted yesterday as well that a year ago in the Assembly of Eurasian Peoples there was participation On the day of spiritual concord, we decided to invite people from the Eurasian countries. And we also noted yesterday, Suhail Faraha noted that each country should be presented, and Jonathan Gratov yesterday also noted that in each country there should be such a day of spiritual concord. What does this mean? This means that the spiritual part will allow people to understand that in our lives not only material parts exist, but also spiritual values should be in place. And irrespective of very busy schedule, this gentleman flew to us, and I just talked to this person online, and from yesterday I see him face to face, and each time we discuss different things, and he in details gives us hints how to do all this work. And I'd like to give the floor to our distinguished guest, Jonathan Granov, Institute of Global Security. He represents this institute. He is co-chair of the Arms Control and National Security Committee of the American Bar Association, vice president of the UN Committee on Disarmament, Peace and Security. So, Mr. Jonathan Granov, the floor is yours.
I've benefited for over a decade of being associated with Tolgan Okonjanov and this initiative, and I have had the privilege of listening carefully. One of the hats that I wear is I'm the representative to the United Nations of the Summit of the Nobel Peace Prize winners. So for the last 17 years, I've been privileged to be at their summits and listening to their deliberations, which often overlap with these issues. So I tried to write something that captured what I've learned from listening, and I hope that it resonates with our community, but I think that it's really aimed at the larger community of humanity. And I titled it The Astana Commitment to Spiritual Concord and Human Security. So it's in two parts. The first is an attempt to articulate where we are in this moment in history universally, without east or west, north or south, without any differences. The foundation for human security is peace, and a pillar of peace is spiritual concord. Nations, religions, ethnicities, and our world benefit by our respecting and honoring diversity in spiritual pursuits and expressions. We come together from all over the world to serve the entire human family with our faith, our hearts, and our love. We thank the Creator of the universe for the gift of living together and serving peace, wherein spiritual concord can thrive and the beauty and dignity of being human can be fully realized. As never before in history, the conduct of humanity is threatening the regenerative processes of the natural world of which we are all a part. Oceanic pollution, destruction of other species, depletion of rainforests, melting the ice caps, and changing the climate are but examples of our misdeeds. We have even created weapons to protect states, our creations, which could destroy humanity itself. We ourselves are making humanity an endangered species. We cannot ignore our failure to live in harmony with the natural world and our duty to do so, nor can we ignore our inadequacies in living in harmony with each other. War and violence remain a present and increasing threat to the well-being of all and evidence of failure of dialogue, understanding, and diplomacy. Spiritually informed ideals are a lighthouse for the journey from danger to safety. We know this journey is not easy. We have faith in the power that gives us life itself and the guidance of wisdom. Thus, we affirm our personal and collective commitments to strive to treat all lives with love and compassion, to reject distortions of religious, national, and racial prejudices which are used to violate the golden rule to treat others as we wish to be treated, to challenge the misuse of beliefs, rites, rituals, practices, philosophies, and traditions used to degrade anyone or which lead to violence, to affirm the necessity of bringing love and compassion into action, to improve the relationships of people, one nation to another, one religion to another, one belief system to another, one gender to another, one race to another, and one person to another. We call upon all people of goodwill to join us in this pledge, simple pledge. We pledge that in all we intend, think, and do, we shall strive to bring love and compassion into action and into the lives of all we meet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jonathan. We express huge appreciation to you for all the work you do, and we understand these are very important things. And you also recalled that 17 years ago, together with Mr. Tolegen Muhammadjanov, are on that track, on that way, using all your energy, all your efforts, spreading this call for peace, for spiritual concord. And in a maximum way, you participated in this movement. Thank you very much, Mr. Jonathan. The floor is given to our guest who came from another country, from Altai region, professor, composer, teacher, president and rector of Kyrgyz National Conservatory, People's Artist of Kyrgyzstan, Mr. Begaliyev. From Altai territory, you said. Yeah, we all are Altai area. Altai is the cradle of civilization. Yeah, and there the Kyrgyz nation was originated, and our land is there, our homeland is there. Thank you very much. You said it in the right way. Yesterday, basically, we were talking about peace, about concord. Today, we already are closer to each other, and barlashu is the word in our country. We probably will adopt the declaration. And now Mr. Tolegen, looking back, was recalling what kind of work was done during these 30 years. From the first up to 30th year up to today. Maybe I missed only one or two such kind of meetings, but we were always together. And I recall, like Mr. Tolegen did all his best, whatever he tried to do, traveled throughout the world and talked to the great people and gathered them here in Kazakhstan. And in this regard, I may say that this is huge history, Mr. Tolegen, and it should be recorded in the historical books. And thanks a lot to you that you are a real Kazakh patriot and continue this work further on, although you already came to the age of people who may be retired, but still try to do this work even in this age. And we as teachers train and upbring the future generations. These young people should know that the most important is unity, concord, positive spirits, and we Kyrgyz and Kazakhs are say sabrly duluk. It means that we always need to be friends. Look for friends. Don't have 100 rubles, but have please 101 friends. And that's why such friendship should go on. And I fully support the declaration. And here we read, it is written very well. Let's the activity of such a forum going on for many, many years. Maybe we will have more chances to see each other later. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Muratbek Murza, for the time you devoted to see us. And actually, there is such a saying that Kyrgyz and Kazakh nations are brothers. Thank you for coming to us. The next floor I'd like to give to Doctor of Philosophy, Suhail Naim Farah. We talked from yesterday a lot, and we came to the conclusion that spiritual people are very, very rich. There is the peace of the world living in their hearts. And Mr. Toleken, you were presented a book yesterday on culture. And in every nation, in every person, there should be the culture inside him or her. Without culture, a person cannot exist. And in this environment, he cannot behave himself or communicate with other people. In this community, in this society, there should be some kind of ideology, and this is culture. So the floor is given to our distinguished Mr. Suhail Naim Farah. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Coordinator. Mr. Almukhanov, my friend and brother, Tolegen Muhamedjanov, distinguished colleagues, distinguished friends, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to be here today, and our talks today have some different nature. Every person is talking about his or her personal experience, about fortune, misfortune, we recall things, and I'd like maybe to talk not about impressions, but wishes, to talk about lessons I learned in my modest experience as a scholar, as a public figure, as well as observer of all events around me. And my specialty is that I deal with the issues of civilization, present and future. And I'd like to share with you not just my experience, but what the time allows. First, what I want to note will be words of spiritual gratitude to your republic, to Kazakhstan. And for me, this republic, this nation is very, very warm and native as far as it presented me my second half. My spouse is a Kazakh lady, and I'm proud of this. And she always presents the Kazakh and Russian sciences. She is a professor on biochemistry in Lebanese University, was also the professor even in Algeria and in France and the last part of your life she wants to spend in Kazakhstan and increase qualification of medical doctors and chemists. The second point, what I like very much, is that in my life, such people of creativity appeared. They are the smartest, the spiritual ones, as Mr. Tolyagen Muhammadjanov. He appeared in my life as the most beautiful, warmest, and lightest rose. I like him very much because he does a lot, not for your republic, for your country, but for all people who need the spiritual culture. This is a unique person, and this unique person is the child of the unique country, Kazakhstan. Thanks to him, in each conference where I participated in, I found more beautiful people like Jonathan Granov from the US, like Yusuf Kabzonov, who already passed away, and thanks to my friend, close friend, Ramadan Hajimuratov, whom I don't conceal, he recommended me as a candidate to be with you today in this conference. This is a person who is very wise and very experienced. Experience of him is wise. And look, these are elements of happiness. When in your life such kind of light, wise, beautiful people appear. And this is like chemistry, interactions, how we influence on each other in a positive way, how we study our successful experience or some misfortunes which we experienced as well in order to spread this culture further on. Another aspect which I also would like to talk about. We live, distinguished friends, in a diverse world, and as every person is accidentally born in one country, in one family, or as one religion, being a carrier of one language, a carrier of some certain historical memory. But we live in the diverse world. I myself, from my experience, was born in the Christian Orthodox family, but my neighbors were Jews, Christians from different profiles, and Buddhists also appeared in my life. And after that, as far as my modest experience also included the fact that I also was a Marxist when I thought that religious institute was obsolete. Then I went away from the Marxism as far as I thought that I lack the spiritual culture. But my family is just extended to Mexico, to Paris, Bordeaux. My eldest son is in Sydney. My wife is a Kazakh lady. And I don't know who I am. I live in Russia. I am a citizen of Russian Federation. But look, in such diverse world, how can you find a common language with a different person? Certainly you can find a common language with your relative, but with a person whom you never saw before is just an art. And you need to bring up in yourself the culture of perception, of respect, of sympathy to another person who differs from me. And actually, how can you do and what can you do in order to make these fundamental human values be inside us, inside our hearts, and in our behavior? This is the second lesson of my life. The third lesson, as of scholar, I am PhD, and you know, philosophers are crazy. They usually are skeptical, and they always think that everything is for the mind, for the sense, but the life taught me that culture and mind should be in a parallel way. Your mind and your heart should be harmonical. in harmony. And at the same time, it looks like that a life of a philosopher, of a scholar, without spirituality, without religion in good sense of this word, you feel that something is missing. And that's why my life taught me to do everything in order to have three interpretations inside you in the system of behavior and system of thinking, because there are three main interpretations about peace, world, human, and space. The first interpretation is religious, the second is scientific, and the third is philosophic. But the most harmonical approach is when there is the synthesis of scientific interpretation, philosophic interpretation, and religious interpretation. Then the science will be more spiritual, more effective, more creating. And at the same time, religion, as I said yesterday, without culture, without philosophy, it is not effective at all. Without philosophy, without ethics, religion is week. And the third lesson I'd like to share with you is that me, as a public figure, apart to my main work, I am a writer and I'm a teacher, professor, but I also dealt with the public work. When I was a student, I was a leader of students, of my fellow students in the Middle East, and then became the chairman of the Russian Federal House and became the president of the Open University on Dialogues. And always my life taught me the following: how we live, how we will continue our lives if we always are exposed to the laws and principles of people in power, in knowledge. They are based on the philosophy of social Darwinism. Who is stronger, that is a winner. And the leaders of the religious institutes also spread dogmas that they have the absolute truth, and the way of rescue is also in their hands. And these people who think that progress may be done only through science. These are scholars, these are scientists. But I know that life cannot continue without creating right direction with harmony only, including the fact that we need always be ready for dialogues and upbring ourselves in the culture of dialogues between the different areas of knowledge, between different religions and culture and different civilization. And then only, I think, our lives will be with less conflicts, less wars. As far as culture of Concord, culture of peace will dominate, and people will, in this sense, be able to implement such beautiful ideas and mission of global spiritual concord. And like this holiday we are celebrating together here, and that appeared exactly in your country. I wish your country, I wish you, all of you distinguished colleagues, first of all, health, physical, spiritual health, success, and all benefits. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Suhail Naim Farah. Thank you very much. Now, we would like to note the important fact about Mr. Farah. He is a nominee for the Nobel Prize, and working in science is really important. So thank you once again, distinguished colleagues. Let's support our colleague, Mr. Suhail Naim Farah, and I'd like to give the next floor to the President of the International Association Peace Through Culture, Switzerland, Liz Augustet, who is joining us online today.
So I'm from Germany, but we also have a lot of people in Switzerland. Mr. Fankhauser is the president of Switzerland. I'm from Germany. Dear Tolligan, dear organizers, and dear followers of our path for spiritual concord. Just recently, 3 quantum physicists have received the Nobel Prize for Physics. But how can quantum physics help us to identify the path to peace? When I remember the many conferences of peace through culture in Kazakhstan, I really like to think of Professor Dr. Hans-Peter Dürr, the world-renowned German physicist, director of the famous Max Planck Institute for Physics, and winner of the Alternative Nobel Prize, who so often enriched us with his participation and insights. Our joint conversations are also reflected in my contribution. Nuclear physicists want to know what holds the world together at its core. So Professor Dürr also asked himself, what is actually behind matter? He split it into smaller and smaller parts in the hope of eventually finding the essence. But after 50 years of research, he came to the astonishing conclusion, the essence does not lie in matter, but actually does not exist. What we think is matter is actually vibration and energy. In other words, and with the help of logic, it follows that the so-called physical or gross matter and so-called subtle matter are 2 sides of the same coin, an inseparable unity of spirit and matter. This statement, which so far was assigned to the area of spirituality, is now scientifically substantiated by quantum physics and is likely to radiate into all areas of society in the future. Unfortunately, however, a major problem today is the inconsistency between thoughts, technology, and future requirements. Although modern physics dominate our technology, like microelectronics or atomic weapons and chemistry, we still hold a very mechanistic view of the world as we did in the 19th century, even though we use 20th century technologies and must meet the challenges of the 21st century. As a consequence, we humans see ourselves outside of nature as something different from nature, but we urgently have to overcome this idea of separation. According to quantum physics, there is only form or shape. This is incomprehensible for our normal imagination because we always see an arrangement of some substance in the form. Nevertheless, we experience today, for example, with the cell phone calling to Paris, a shape without substance. Matter is basically not matter, it is a kind of vibration. Reality at the end is quite different from what we have imagined it to be so far. Expressed in modern language, there is no hardware, physical material at the beginning, but only software, idea, or spirit. No doubt there exists only a relational structure, but at the end, no objects, and this structure connects us all. The world is the one and the whole, which cannot be dissected. This fact has fantastic consequences, because if we include ourselves in this world, we are distinguishable but not separate. We are all in this community, in this connectedness. And this is an essential condition for us to be able to communicate with each other at all. In Sanskrit, this is called Advaita or a-duality. We are not really separate because our software is everywhere, so to speak, and we are all connected. Spirit is primary, connecting and holding us together as humanity. So therefore, when people wage war against each other, they are hurting themselves at the same time, because all living beings are parts of one and the same spirit. When something in the world suffers, we suffer with it, even if we do not know the reason. This is not to be attributed to sentimentality, but it is a deep ontological feeling that touches our common root. We constantly co-create our future. We are actors who change things and influence future development. If now also the latest findings of physics make us aware of our power of creation, it becomes all the more urgent that we orient ourselves anew in order to be able to act and shape in the right way. Benevolence, worldwide cooperation will be necessary to climb to a higher level of development. So far, unfortunately, the United Nations did not fulfill the hope of uniting the world through joint political actions, maybe in some individual departments. But can we create something similar in the field of spiritual and cultural understanding and achieve real results? My father, Willi Augustad, introduced the concept of the Ethical Council already 30 years ago, when we all were together on the occasion in Alma Ata of the first Congress, in order to ensure that ethical requirements and corresponding parameters are optimally considered also in all major decisions. In this conceptual framework, national ethical councils logically emerge from the awakening ethical consciousness within peoples and multi-ethnic states. This ethical council could be composed of impartial representatives, for example, of the academies of the humanities and social sciences, artists, scientists, religious representatives trained in character. It would have to recognize all world religions in their original sense and represent ethics as the common foundation of all cultures and religions. Each person would be chosen by a group by virtue of his knowledge and authority in a particular field, and by virtue of the esteem and trust he enjoys in his own or related cultures. The national ethics councils would have to send representatives to the World Ethics Council, which needs to be on a par with the United Nations. All measures would only be adopted with the agreement of both bodies, so that ethical standards are taken into account in every political and other far-reaching decision. Veto rights would not exist within the countries of the United Nations as they do today, but only on the part of the Ethical Council. As in a future work community, the advantage of one must also be to the advantage of the others. All cultures of the world should be allowed to keep their substance and thus be included in the aspired overarching world peace culture in the sense of unity in diversity, based on universal ethical principles. We are here today because we know that there is no other way left for us but to move forward towards harmony and spiritual culture if life on earth is to continue. We know that time is mature for a new paradigm, a profound change of consciousness. I think we sense it ourselves and see many signs in the world today that an evolutionary step is at hand, despite or perhaps because of the conflicts in so many parts of the world. Human impact has reached a point where it has become possible to perceive the universal roots of all cultures and to look towards synthesis and unification. Ethical parameters such as community and cooperation must be powerfully reactivated and understood in their whole essence. I think that such spiritual changes cannot be solved by loners, nor with an old and unscientific worldview, but only through cooperation. Scientific realizations like those of the quantum physics help to win evolutionary and next stage, an extended view on the spirit, on our potential in the spirit, for the benefit of a peaceful future for all. And this is a great reason for joy. Thank you very much for your attention.
Mr. Mohamedjanov, distinguished Liz, your father, Willy Augustad, was one of the founders of our movement of spiritual concord, and you today are continuing the deed of your father, and we respect you for this. I was at your house, we met many times, you came to our country, and I'm happy to see that you are continuing the deeds of your father. We wish you good health, and please say hi to all your relatives and close ones. Thank you so much. Once again, thanks to Liz Augustad. We are very grateful for your contribution, and we'd like to give the next floor to Mr. Shmygler, Alexei Nikolaevich. He represents Buddhism, the Nippon order. I hope I said it correctly. Yes. So please, the floor is yours. Please follow the time limit because we have other guests who would like to speak as well. So I have 10 minutes, right? Yes, you've got 10 minutes. First of all, thanks for invitation to this conference. I'm proud to be a speaker at this meeting. The history of my interaction with the conference goes back to 2008 when my teacher was one of the delegates of the conference that took place from 2008 to 2012. We regularly participated. At that time, I was an assistant of the teacher, and today I'm representing him here. I'm very grateful for invitation. So let me start my statement. The topic of today's event of the historical cycles of spirituality is very important. We need to understand at what point in history we are living in. And today's holiday, the day of spiritual concord, I believe is quite relevant. What is a spiritual concord? It is significant, very much, and without spiritual concord we don't have future. This is the only thing that could save us as humanity, because currently we are on the brink of a nuclear apocalypse, and we need to understand the importance of spiritual concord between the representatives of different religions and nations. And in this regard, we see that Kazakhstan is an example of such concord and was one of the countries that denied use of nuclear weapons. And I believe that Kazakhstan has a special role, and in geopolitical process the spiritual concord plays an important role, and I believe we need to make more efforts to achieve this understanding around the world. And spirituality, history, religion, they are all interconnected. At the 3rd century BC, and there was a Tsar Ashoka who renounced violence and called for spiritual Concord. This is a first person who united India and declared this purpose as his main purpose in politics. And during the history, there were always different religions and different confessions, and they had to coexist. So, such coexistence led to the prosperous Central Asia and allowed it to become a force, political and economic, in the region. And the Silk Way at the time contributed not only to trade exchange but also to religious and spiritual exchange. And today we need to look at religions not only as some institutions but to understand this is a knowledge that we have from the ancient times that will show us an exit from these difficult situations of today. And religions has always been an impulse and in international politics religions are also fundamental, and the traditions of a politics and during the times of Genghis Khan, unlike Tsar Ashoka, he forbid not showing respect to any religions and highlighted the need to respect every religion. And in Genghis Khan state there were also different religions that coexisted in peace, and these traditions were later violated, and we saw religious wars, and sometimes representatives of one religion wage war against each other. However, if we talk about spirituality, this is something that could unite us all, representatives of different religions, of different philosophies, and even atheists, because spirituality is what differentiates us from animals. And if we could understand the spiritual basis that unites all religions and all peoples, despite of their religious beliefs, confessions, etc., we could find a path to come out of this global crisis that we are in right now. And this is will allow to end this historical cycle that repeat themselves and happened at the different times of history. And at this ancient land we had different civilizations, nomads living and in peace, and I believe that Kazakhstan can once again take this role, continue the deeds of the civilizations of Sacs and Skifs, and these civilizations impacted many processes that were happening at the Eurasian continent at that time, and also Buddha Shakyamuni is also believed to be Skif, and we believe that they formed the basis of all religions and confessions. The nomads, they were travelers, and from the ancient times, from Zarathustra, Pythagoras, and Buddha, and to Jesus Christ and Prophet Muhammad, these were travelers, and nomads, they valued this. And I believe that we are part of this renaissance of spirituality that can save the world today. And I believe that this conference is quite important in this context. Thanks you for invitation and participation. I cannot talk for too long about the historical cycles. This is a great topic for discussions, but this is not only the basis of all religion, but of the psychological health, or mental health of all people. So I'd like to wrap up my speech with that because time is up. So thank you once again. Thank you, Mr. Alexey Nikolaevich, for your contribution. I'd like to give the next floor to the Doctor of Medical Sciences, academician of American Biographical Institute, Mr. Trofimov.
Distinguished colleagues, good afternoon. I'd like to express my appreciation for the invitation to your conference, specifically to thank Mr. Tolegen and from the laboratory of our institute that is named after academician Krasnochayev. And he passed away on the days in 2014. But he is always with us, and I hope that you will feel this during my brief speech. Academy is the main tool that studies the field forms of different forms of lives, and they work and represent the universe resonator, and you will feel the pulse of the universe during my short talk. Let me start my presentation, a short one. As far as we are talking about the spiritual science, I will not be able to skip some facts that will be presented during my presentation. So we'll start from the very beginning. And this is how it looks like, a small speech where you can see all my scientific awards, but the main one is the Doctor of Sciences in Zoroastric University. And I think that my presentation will be a quick one. We are now inside the modeled mirror world, the global resonator. You see that symbol that everybody knows, the Rerich's knowledge about the world, where you see combination of the past, present, and future. And he was the initiator of the new neosphere, and this was created in the far north, and the symbol of knowledge about the world was started from there. New sphere is the sphere of the new mind and harmonization of the whole mankind. And in my presentation, there is the concepts I am talking about. I will not give you the details. If you're interested, look through the monography that is published in the English and Russian language together with academician Kaznachev that is named Intellect on the Earth planet. And our intellect, our consciousness is into spheres, in the usual sphere of Merkovsky and Einstein, and the sphere of Kozyrev, where the time is very proactive. And in the modeled world, in the this model, you can achieve the situation when there are no limits for the light and for the speed. And whatever we talk about is already heard and seen in the universe, everywhere in the universe. And the experiments with the mirrors took place at the beginning of 1990s, where in many points of Earth connected mirrors of Kozyrev that were located in the far north. Mirrors looked like this, and the program of transmission was done from the far north and was transmitted to 5,000 people from different points of the Earth that were transmitted the information given by Kozyrev with the help of his mirrors. And there is transpersonal communications for transmission of information in no time, irrespective of the distance between people. And it was proven in 1991. This is the short historical reference. And the goal for our experiments became to see the regularities between such kind of transmission between people with the goal of harmonization of collective consciousness of the mankind in order to monitor the future events. For us, this is just a reality. And such kind of demonstrational specimen of Kozyrev's mirror, it may be seen in Moscow. This is the modern already mirror that is located in the Chinese center in Moscow, and you may go to that demonstration center to see how they look like. Last year, together with my colleagues, Mr. Vladimir Kachurov and Yakov Timonchinov, we did the tour to the sacred place in Altai, brought the mirrors there, and did a ritual in one of the places like Karakol. You may see the picture of this ritual. This was on 21st of July last year, and this is inside Takil. And these are our mirrors, the great travelers of time. And if you pay attention, you may see some picture. What the eye sees, some things that happen in the mirrors. And you see the picture of the ritual in Altai on the left, and on the right, our colleagues from the North America, who are Yuri and Olga, who now, at this exact time, are working together with us in the suburbs of New York. But at that time, it was just experiment. Let us have a look what we got. In this table, you may see the results of traditional communications between frequency and pulse of people, participants of the ritual in the mountainous Altai, and participants of the group that operated in the North America. We just measured the frequency of the heart rates, and without any details, I may summarize that we work simultaneously. And the chronology of our lives also was synchronized. And the rate of pulse rates shows that we may work at the same time, although the distance between us would be more than 1,000 kilometers. And I may also talk about the new advanced study we are doing. We'd like to harmonize the collective consciousness, and this is monitoring of future events with the use of Kozyrev's mirrors. This experiment started in 2016 and is going on. Imagine that any natural uh, emergency happens somewhere, and Kozyrev thinks that you may observe the future events, but we now observe during 6 months the events that didn't happen, like, for example, earthquakes. And accuracy of such kind of observations without mirrors shows the level of this column lower than accidental observations. But when the forecast is done with the help of mirrors of Kozyrev, we see that our observer sees the future events. And this is the number of earthquakes, and this is the magnitude according to Richter's scale. Another monitoring of future events that could happen with the use of these mirrors. Our scholars work inside the mirrors, and we look at the horizon of future events, and we do at the same time monitoring of proton flows at the time of our forecast. This is the zero point of the event. Only the task is set up to forecast. And we may, for example, put such a future event as the result of some sports competitions in 6 hours, in 12 hours, and the end of the day. And we see that the accuracy of forecasts increases from the scale from 3 to 12 and at the end of the 24 hours. In a parallel way, the intensity of galactic proton flows also is increasing. And the human in the space of Kozyrev is built into the system of serious energy and lines flows that is the galactic flows. This is the brief information and brief conclusion that Kozyrev's mirrors may be as global resonator, be an accurate transmitter of the future events, and may help us to observe the flows of time and energy. We continue our experiment and invite the interested stakeholders to collaboration in Novosibirsk. They do the mirrors of Kozyrev of the new generations. We may be equipped with this unique tool and set up the tasks of harmonization and synchronization of the collective consciousness of mankind. Thank you very much to you for your attention, and to my colleagues who participated with me in my experiment. But unfortunately, I cannot answer your questions, but I will be happy to get emails from you. Thank you very much, Mr. Alexander, for your talk. And Suhail Naim of Harach wanted to comment this. Yeah, briefly. Thank you very much that you gave me the floor. Distinguished friends, I'd like just to draw your attention to the following thing. The previous speaker reflects actually the new type of knowledge, the science of a different type, which actually requires specific attention and specific respect. It not only deserves the right for existence, for being studied, but also uses the latest achievements of different sciences like mathematics, physics, and etc., and spirituality as well. And such names as Kaznachev, Vernadsky, Tsiolkovsky, and Rerich's heritage in the Western and Eastern countries also are enabled to exist and gives us the hope for future, response to the crisis, the science experiences, and all traditional institutions with their system of values. We may see with our own eyes that values of liberal, conventional, and non-liberal world are tired, and values of traditional socialist camp also are tired. The values even of conventional religious institutes in their dogmatic era also are obsolete. We need some different alternative in order to update the spirit of science, spirit of economics management, spirit of culture and civilization management. And one of the alternatives is what my colleague, I don't know him personally, but I admire what he says and what he achieved. This is the science that offers the new type. And I am not far from that. I am one of the authors of the book on establishment of a new sphere civilization. And I think that if there is the new civilization in Earth that gives the light of and hope to us, this will be neosphere, space, new civilization. This is the subject of thinking for those people who are sitting here and representatives of different religious institutions and different scientific schools, philosophic schools and public schools. I think such kind of approach, scientific approach, gives a lot of optimistic scenarios for our future. Let the God help the carriers of this school to continue this project in order to find the most reliable alternative for our civilization, for our planet that suffers very much from us. Thank you very much for giving me the floor to express this small comment. Mr. Alexander. Thank you for that high assessment of our project. Thank you very much, Alexander Vasilievich, for your very interesting report. Academician Kaznachev, the institute is named after, was one of the brightest personalities that supported our movement and participated actively in it. Thank you very much. Once more, thank you, Mr. Alexander. Thank you very much for your presentation. The next floor is given to Vice President of the International Association of Peace Through Culture, Mr. Marko Lukovic.
Thank you. Respected Chair, respected audience, dear friends and guests. Our civilization has reached its limits. The fact that we are now in the midst of worldwide economic, social and ecological crisis ultimately came about through our own failures. We are gradually becoming aware of a real situation on our Earth today, but we have not yet considered the most important aspect. All these crises are obviously only the consequence of a certain development, namely a spiritual moral paralysis that is oppressing the whole of humanity. Wherein, in the denial of spirituality, lies the root of the evil, the basic cause of all the undesirable developments. We must begin at this point and from here seek a way out of a dead end in which we find ourselves together. We must understand that there is a way out of a vicious circle of contradictions in which we have become entangled. Not even special ingenuity or heroic effort is required, but common sense and above all, by aspiration for spiritual concord. In our opinion, this movement should be based on 3 principles. First, spiritual principles must be placed before political expediency. We must recognize that economic and political solutions, however promising they may seem, can no longer improve the situation. They come too late. The only viable alternative lies in an evolution of consciousness, a rethinking among the people, and an expansion of thinking, also in the realization of being part of a living cosmos. Strange as it may sound, this task has never been more urgent than now, when so many are gripped by the destructive spirit of disunity and confrontation. Now is the time to look forward, not back. Mastering our future is our primary task. Every human being must realize that he is not simply an inhabitant of a stretch of land or of a planet Earth, but also an inhabitant of a cosmos. Is not every human being, even first and foremost, an inhabitant of a cosmos? We are convinced that today's civilization has a chance to survive only if we manage to realize this responsibility. Second principle, active tolerance, not passive indifference. Tolerance must be lived actively, in the sense that first the unifying and not the dividing is sought. A common search for a unifying basis will inevitably reduce and overcome the forces of confrontation and discord. As soon as we deny these forces the inflow of new energies, they will weaken and eventually disappear altogether. The constant application of this principle goes hand in hand with the formation of a community of those who seek and promote not confrontation, but dialogue and mutual understanding between peoples who today still hold opposing beliefs. These contacts could be built on a simple basis, which in principle excludes no one. Third principle, openness and willingness to solve problems. Mahatma Gandhi was the gifted representative of a new way. He proved to hundreds of millions of people that there are non-violent ways and means to solve problems. We agree with Mahatma Gandhi's thoughts in that the unusual coming together of concepts, such as beauty and the willingness to make concessions in order to bring about a balance, actually represents a new key to old problems. Being open to new aspects and broadening one's own horizon does not mean sullenly giving in to the pressures of external circumstances. On the contrary, this exchange and learning process should be a source of joy because finally we have found a common denominator in this. We call upon the people of our planet, all states and their national and international organizations, to support the movement towards a spiritual synthesis. The language of ultimatums is hopelessly outdated today, as it is unfortunately spoken at times even by those who profess religious and humanistic values. There are no winners and losers in today's world of nuclear warheads and environmentally destructive technologies. Either we all win or we all lose. It is wiser and consistent with logic to work for all of us to become winners, and we can win only if we seek common spiritual ground. One way of realization and fostering of these principles is to implement round-table structures and people's assemblies. An assembly is an important instrument of public diplomacy, cultural exchange, and a platform for the development of international, intercultural, and interethnic projects. There is no other way to lasting peace. The only way is through spiritual culture. In many Eastern countries, we have seen the installment of people's assemblies. The Western world lacks similar initiatives. The Western world and the East must come to a dialogue on eye-to-eye level. If not in politics, then on the level of public diplomacy. The Western world even desperately needs cultural platforms for its internal improvement towards spiritual concord. Therefore, our proposal is a call for action to seek partners on the American continent for the development of similar soft power instruments like the people's assemblies, to empower and interlink the spiritual forces and all people of good will. It is high time to not only think in terms of Western and Eastern civilizations and the national and continental borders. Thank you for your attention.
Спасибо, господин.
Thank you, Mr. Marko Vukovic, for your speech. Distinguished participants of the conference, let me give the floor to our author of the idea, Day of Spiritual Concord, the basis of the world, Mr. Muhammadjanov. Distinguished friends, we are coming to the end of our discussions, and there is a proposal to adopt a resolution, and you all have it in your hands. Is it necessary to read it out? Do you have all of them? Do all of you have the text of the resolution in your hands? Let me read it.
Духовному согласию и безопасности человека.
The basis of the security is peace. Our religion, ethnic groups, and our world only we come together from all over the world to serve the entire human family with our faith, our hearts, and our love. We thank the Creator of the universe for the gift of living together and serving peace, wherein spiritual concord can thrive and the beauty and dignity of being human can be fully realized. As never before in history, the conduct of humanity is threatening the regenerative processes of the natural world of which it is a part. Oceanic pollution, destruction of other species, depletion of rainforests, melting the ice caps, and changing the climate are but examples of our misdeeds. We have even created weapons to protect states, our creations, which could destroy humanity itself. We ourselves are making humanity an endangered species. We not ignore our failure to live in harmony with the natural world. We have faith in the power that gives us life itself and the guidance of wisdom. Thus, we affirm our personal and collective commitments to strive to treat all lives with love and compassion, to reject distortions of religious, national, and racial prejudices which are used to violate the golden rule to treat others as we wish to be treated, to respect the diversity of ways people pursue the individual ideals, to challenge the misuse of beliefs, rites, rituals, practices, philosophies, and traditions used to degrade anyone or which lead to violence, to affirm the necessity of bringing love and compassion into action, to improve the relationships of people, one nation to another, one religion to another, one belief system to another, one gender to another, one race to another, and one person to another. We call upon all people of goodwill to join us in this pledge. We pledge that in all we intend, think, and do, we shall strive to bring love and compassion into action and into the lives of all we meet. Thank you. Mr. Muhammadjanov, thank you very much. Distinguished participants, we have a proposal to adopt this document. If there are any additions from anyone here, then you can talk about it. Perhaps we can vote on this document. Let's vote. So unanimously adopted. Thank you very much. Distinguished participants, let's follow our time limit. I propose open discussions for 10-15 minutes. Everybody agrees? Mr. Jonathan, please.
The Hans-Peter Dürr was mentioned, the great physicist, one of the great physicists of our time, and the woman who explained his philosophy of diving deeper and deeper into the mysteries of matter. When he was here, my wife and I had the privilege of staying up with him till 4 in the morning when he explained the wonders of quantum mechanics, the embeddedness of photons that can be in 2 places at once and be one, the mystery of the unity of being. And this is what he said that wasn't reported, but I know that the woman who gave that absolutely excellent report will resonate with this. He said, after you go in and there are no things there, but there is a pure intention. And he said, it was love. And Martin Luther King, as I quoted the other day, had said that this power of love is not an emotional issue, but an issue that reveals the secret of the universe, the secret of knowing, the secret of reality. It's an epistemological issue of how do we know what's real. So it's not just an emotion that we're talking about, it's a way of approaching the world itself, that our eyes should see with love, that our hearts should focus on love, that this is the power that Jesus said makes us human. And compassion in the Islamic tradition is the key to opening the Holy Scripture, not just the Holy Scripture of the Quran, but the Holy Scripture of the human life. So this pledge to focus on these qualities is not an emotional focus. It's a focus that is grounded in the unique moment of human history in which the admonition of the wise to see the human family as one and to love the human family the way we love our blood families. It's in the Upanishads, the ancient Hindu scripture. So I've just cited the Quran, the Bible, and the Upanishads says the human family is one of the most ancient spiritual scriptures we have. This uniquely has become a practical necessity in today's world. This has never happened in human history. So I just want to say, I feel that this declaration that we've just adopted is worthy of the widest dissemination. And I would urge everyone with social media exposure, with organizational capacity, with other networks, to spread it as far and wide and cause people to start thinking about not just the symbols with which we understand reality, the symbols of physics, the symbols of engineering, the symbols of philosophy, but the reality of our daily lives, because everything begins with the hearts of each individual. What brought us here was something in Toligan's heart. That's how we got here. Something arose in his heart. And we all responded to it. We responded to it. We responded to something that responded in us. And that is the secret of spirituality. There's something that responds inside of people, not with their minds, but with their hearts. So we have a responsibility, and I believe that with a sense of humility and gratitude and a sense of the concordance of this message with whatever religious confession we're in, but more importantly with the faith that God wants us to be compassionate, God wants us to be loving, God wants us to live as full human beings. May that intention of God, that we be examples of love and compassion, be fulfilled. Amen.
Дорогие друзья,
Distinguished friends, very beautiful speech by Mr. Jonathan Granath. This is a supplement to the declaration that we just adopted, I'd say. And we always shall remember of those people who participated in our movement from the very beginning. So over the 30 years in our conferences, thousands of people participated. In 2010, we had representatives from 70 countries of the world, almost 600 people. And over these years, through this idea of spiritual concord, many people made their own contributions. Some of them passed away. However, they left their mark in the common history of our humanity. For example, the founder of the association Peace Through Culture, Mr. Rerich, an outstanding person, a prominent person, Mr. Sidorov, who was one of the real founders of our association as well, Mr. Wilhelm Augustat, and today his daughter Liz also made her contribution today. Also Josef Davidovich Kobzon, Gavaruhin, Eduard Balashov. All of these people are not with us today. However, they made their contribution to our movement of spiritual concord because they participated in our conferences, they voiced their ideas, and I believe that they spread our ideas in their respective countries as well. And I'm talking about them because we shall never forget about their ideas, their contributions, and of course, American great actor Adrian Brody, Oscar winner, also Armando Sante. There are like Baba Jane, for example, Secretary General of the organization under the UN. And despite the fact that they are not with us today, we still remember their contributions. And I think that this declaration is also a continuation of our common joint work. Thank you very much, Mr. Mohamedjanov. It is true, you've covered everything that is important. We are all human. We are creation of God, and we are not immortals. And we try and do and fulfill our goals in life. And in this day of spiritual concord, we united people from different backgrounds, and it is very sad that some of them are not with us today. However, we remember them all, and we also see that in your book you also mention them. So until this day, over 30 years, we've worked on a document, and it is good that we adopted this declaration today. It's true, as Mr. Jonathan said, that we need now to communicate this document to all people so that our future generations are aware of its existence. And among us today we have Mr. Novgorodov, who would like to also have a word. He is the head of the Lutheran Church in Kazakhstan. Thank you very much. I would like to sincerely say, after hearing all the names that you mentioned just now, compared to them, my role is not that significant. No, no, no. Please don't be modest, Mr. Novgorodov. You are a true spiritual pastor and spiritual teacher, and I know you for a long time, and I remember we had lots of discussions about the destruction of a church, and we, the municipal authorities, we wanted wanted to destroy this church, a little church for only 50 people, but we met with such force. I remember we pledged to build a new church for 500 followers, but I remember how Mr. Novgorodov was against this, and he wanted to keep this parish, this church, because it was very important to him and to followers, and he was able to do it. So, yeah, I remember it very well. Thank you very much, Mr. Mohamedjanov, and I'm very pleased to hear these words from you. However, yes, you mentioned very prominent figures, and yes, their contributions are truly significant. And Mr. Farah also mentioned that despite the fact that we are, a bit old ourselves, uh, we have something to say. And Mr. Mohamedjanov, I once said that in my age and with all my diagnoses, I can openly express my ideas. And when last two speakers spoke, I felt like I'm watching this Russian TV channel, REN TV. Yes, I believe in science and scientific achievements. In the end of the 19th century, everybody was excited with the prospects that opened for us the nuclear disintegration. However, what do we see today? What followed? Nuclear weapons were made, and you perhaps also remember that if there is a weapon, then one day it will be used. So the whole world is concerned about this now. And it's good that we have new discoveries in quantum physics, etc. However, let's not forget that many discoveries are still just theories and hypotheses. So what I'm concerned about, it's been said it will allow us to find opportunities to synchronize our consciousness. And my background is in philology, and Mr. Saltkov had a project on introducing unified thinking in Russia. And these things are quite dangerous. So, who's gonna use this synchronization, harmonization, to what ends, and how will it be activated? Is there such an issue? Yes, there is. And another thing that I'd like to share, yesterday I talked a little, however, then later I thought, what did I say? At the conference, I often meet The same people, what I'd like to say, I'm grateful to the God for directing me to these kind of meetings because I meet with so many smart, clever people. And I also am very interested in mathematics. We either state about our achievements and our lives and only talk about good things, and as in causative mirrors, we are either in one dimension or another dimension. However, in the middle, there is our reality. And we often do not make any practical proposals in context of our reality. We've heard that it's been said, Mr. Marko Vukovic said, that our people should understand. How do we do it? Through this synchronizer of consciousness, or what other pathway do we have? And I agree, there is a need for science, religion, and philosophy to go hand in hand. However, there is a bird which is called gluhar in Russian. Why it's called like that? Because in spring, when it sings its song, it doesn't hear anything else. So sometimes it's look like we are these birds. We talk, but we do not listen. So I think that science without morals and ethics can become a weapon in their own hands. Yes, we are glad to see these discoveries in physics and in science. However, if we forget about the ethics, about moral values, then this will be another tool that can be used not for good goals. So we need to be very careful. And Mr. Mohamedjanov, I very well remember how we fought, and as my colleague said, we were able to reach consensus. So thank you very much, Mr. Mohamedjanov, for your all efforts, and I hope you will continue to work on this on this our ideas, and I'd like to support you in all your deeds and endeavors. Perhaps sometimes I do not agree with you, but we are able to reach consensus at all times. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Yuri Timofeyevich. That is true. Your ideas are always important. We always await some proposals from you and look forward to hear from you. Distinguished colleagues, it is sad that we need to sum up our meeting. We want to continue our discussions with you. This is truly a cosmic moment. Distinguished friends, I'm from Novosibirsk and I'd like to comment. We've heard about causative mirrors were mentioned. This here we're talking about the spirituality of science, first of all, as long ago was said, we're trying to find mechanisms for interaction. We try to find a balance. And Kaznachev also talked about the science and technology and evolution of the planet Earth. And when talking about Kozyrov's mirror, we talked about resonators, which will allow us to hear the voice of the universe. Thank you very much, Alexander Vasilievich. That is true. Our purpose is to build peace through culture, and we hope that this spiritual harmony that we have, it will continue to exist. And I'd like to thank everyone, our distinguished participants of the conference. I'm glad that our conference was held at the highest level. We've heard very important opinions and thoughts today. So, on behalf of the organizers of the conference, I'd like to congratulate you all with the 30th anniversary of the Day of Spiritual Concord. We wish you all good health and success in all your endeavors. So we are summing up our today's event aimed at consolidation of interaction among countries and aimed at promoting spiritual concord and mutual understanding. Once again, we thank you for your proactive participation in the conference. Once again, congratulations. I wish you all great health, success in all your creative endeavors.
Для памяти
And I invite all of you to have a family photo. This is a historic moment, 30 years anniversary. So let's have a family photo.